Hi, welcome to Undoing I Do with Stephanie and a Day. I'm Stephanie Hunnell, the owner of the Hunnell Law Group, a boutique family law firm in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
And I am Adela Sherilyn Dow. Everyone calls me Ade, and I am the owner of the law offices of Adela Sherilyn Dow in Staten Island, New York.
So,
Welcome to our first episode.
yes, yes, we're so excited about this first episode. And we're going to be discussing today something that is not going to be necessarily solely related to divorce and undoing I do, but this is going to be something for anyone who is going to be hiring an attorney, thinking about hiring an attorney. Go ahead, Ade.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And that is the process of interviewing attorneys. So we're going to talk not only about interviewing, but also when you know it's time to consult with an attorney. And I guess that part we'll probably talk about from our standpoint as matrimonial attorneys. And I know Stephanie also has an estate planning and a real estate practice. With respect to matrimonials, you might be tempted to consult with an attorney, even if you think that there's some kind of a breakdown in the marriage, right, Stephanie? I
Yep.
mean, as soon as you have that inkling of, well, I don't know whether I want to be in this, you probably should talk to somebody about how not being in this looks. But how does that work with regards to what you do also with respect to real estate and estate planning?
So, with real estate and estate planning, they're both completely different. We don't really need to meet with or consult with a client in advance of them purchasing a house, usually. Usually, our touchstones are when they get a signed contract, then we get the contract over from the realtor, and then the process begins. We do have first time home buyers that are not sure what the process is. So they want to come in, have a conversation. Usually we do that by phone. Now, especially, we're not, us personally, we're not doing any in-person meetings. So it's all Zoom and phone. With
Right.
estate planning, you got to get in there. I mean, estate planning is so important, especially right now with wills and with healthcare directives. When people are having life changes, so you're having children, you're buying a house, those are the times that you need to think about contacting an attorney to find out what you need to put in place, because nobody ever wants to talk about death. They never want to talk about what's going to happen when they're sick, because it's an unpleasant conversation.
Yeah.
But you need to have it. It's important.
Yeah, that's so true. And I mean, depending upon what culture you're from, we all have experienced that dealing with our loved ones, and just even talking to them about estate planning can be difficult depending upon, what your family composition is and what the values have been or what the sensitivities are. You
Oh, yeah.
know, do you charge for your consultations?
So I charge for my divorce consultations only. If we're going to do an extensive estate plan, I might charge. It depends on how in depth we're going to get. But usually those are free, and so are the real estate consults.
Right. And that's a big difference. A lot of people are somewhat shocked when we talk about paying for consultations. Just please be thoughtful of the fact that you're talking to an attorney and you are talking to them when they could possibly be doing something else or billing somebody else. Sure, that's true. But the most important thing is when you're doing a consultation with somebody, I know Stephanie's consultations are similar to mine. We're really not just doing a meet and greet. A lot of attorneys don't charge for that meet and greet, that, hi, how are you? And, yes, I can or cannot do your case. When you are consulting with an office like mine, we're talking about full on plans. We're doing child support numbers. We are talking about whether property is marital or not marital, how it might be distributed. We might even come up with game plans for how exactly we're going to be looking to use certain property or obligations as leverage in order to negotiate something else. And so you're really not just paying for someone to say, hi, and I can do this case. You're paying for their legal expertise.
what I really liked is I was on your website or your Facebook page, I forget, a while back, and we had this conversation months ago, and you have listed a strategy session. So I always refer to it, just because this is the way I've learned, is come in for a consultation.
Right.
You call that a strategy session because
Right.
it truly is something different than just coming in and saying, hi, meet, let's shake hands and see if
Right.
we like each other, see if we can work together. But it really is planning your case and looking at, and in my case, looking at different parameters of how we can possibly settle your case, what are going to be the pitfalls of your case, how we're going to strategize in order to make sure that we get the best possible result for you. So that's
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And I'll tell you, and you probably had this yourself, when people have spoken to several lawyers, and that's really what we're talking about today. When they come into your office, they can really tell the difference in the type of service that you're going to be offering, and I can tell the difference in the type of service I offer, juxtaposed with other lawyers, by what the my potential client says they received from other lawyers.
right.
It shocks me sometimes that people have never had child support guidelines or maintenance. In New York, we call it maintenance. In New Jersey, it's alimony. Projections run for them.
Mhm.
And that's very important in making the decision as to whether you're going to file or not. What is your financial outlook going to be if you really do get divorced? What are the different scenarios?
Yeah, I think all of those are really important. And also, it gives the client an idea or a look into how that attorney is going to represent them and if it aligns with what that client's goals are. I have heard from many clients that saying, "Oh, my attorney won't let me do this," or I need a second opinion because I don't trust what they're saying." Well, you want to make sure that you're interviewing your attorney in advance and that you are trusting them and that they are aligned with your goals, because some people just want something that's very simple and they want to settle and they don't want to fight. Some attorneys, that's their end game, is let's just work this file up. We're going to fight. We're going to litigate. We're going to litigate. And sometimes the client gets led along with that. So
That's
I think it's
right.
very important to make sure that your principles and your goals, really your goals, are aligned with what your attorney is going to do for you. So I think that's one of the important things that that clients need to make sure that they're aware of.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, sometimes as I'm representing somebody, they'll say to me, well, no, that's not my spouse. That's their lawyer who's doing XYZ. And I have to tell them, yeah, but your spouse hired his or her lawyer.
Right.
And if your spouse didn't want XYZ to happen, then it probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that sometimes it does, because people don't take the time to really vet the lawyer that they are going to eventually hire. And they think that all of us are the same. And that's not the case.
Yeah, we had one file in our office about 8 months ago, and we already worked out a property settlement agreement. The two clients, the husband was not represented at the time. He got an attorney to review the property settlement agreement, which we always encourage parties to do, because two eyes are better than one. Always look at it, make sure
Absolutely.
your rights are protected. But during that process, the attorney that he hired decided that they were going to serve interrogatories, notices to produce, so a full, huge, the big set, not a little set, the big, like a really large 100 and something pages worth of discovery and questions, sent out subpoenas, like deposition notices along with it. So of course we get these and we are like, what's going on? Is the
Right.
settlement over? And the husband had no idea, supposedly, that this had been done. And we ended up ultimately settling the case, but not before we had to deal with some logistics and procedural aspects that we should not have had to deal with.
That's right. And I'll tell you, you're absolutely right. You can cut that down a lot by knowing exactly what the attorney's MO is, what's the way that they really run their practice. And that's something that's important. It's not important where your attorney went to law school.
Right.
It's just not, after a certain amount of years, I always joke, nobody asks you that anyway, and nobody cares. Of course, it's important that your attorney actually is an attorney, so you want to check that. But, where they went to law school is not what you should be asking them. You should be asking them what their settlement style is, what their litigation style is. There are some attorneys that you don't want to hire if you want to settle your case, because they are just not inherently people who settle matters.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, that's something that you want to talk about when you are sitting down with them. Um, you might also want to talk about how they interact with their clients, right, Stephanie?
Yes. Yeah. You want to know, like I personally, when I have my consultations, I want to know what the client wants. I want to know what their expectations are, but I also like to tell them a little bit about how I work and how I operate, because I want to know that I'll be able to set their expectations. With I have somebody coming in, we talked about this the other day, and you could definitely talk about this, where they're saying, "I want that bulldog. Are you going to be this bulldog for me?" What does that mean? I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to fight your case and just make sure I'm making more money and we're having more litigation just to harass your ex-husband or your soon-to-be ex-wife. I'm doing this because we want to resolve your case. We want to, even if we have to go to trial, believe me, I'm not afraid to go to trial. I actually really enjoy litigation, but
As
I'm
do
not going to
I.
do it unnecessarily, just because we want to torment the other side.
That's right. That's right. That's not the reason to go into litigation.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, I mean, I'll tell people who consult with me, if that's what you want, I'm not your girl. I'm
Mhm.
not your girl, and I will refer you to somebody who will do that. And it's interesting because people say to me, and Steph, yeah, we have talked about this. Are you a bulldog attorney? Yeah, I like to argue, and I always joke that my husband will tell you that I love a great argument. I will not back down from one, but sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes you can resolve things, and especially if you are co-parenting with somebody,
Yeah.
you may not want to be doing that unless there's some other issues that you have to deal with, such as domestic violence and things like that, where you just don't have time to be just settling for any old thing,
Mhm.
because doing so would not be to your benefit. Um, but when we talk about communication, one of the biggest complaints from clients is that their lawyers don't call them back, or
Mhm.
their lawyers don't, email them back or respond to them. And one of the things that we do, for instance, in my office, and you might want to ask, is we do everything by appointment. So everybody's telephone calls are scheduled unless they're emergencies. And this way, if Sue calls me and says, well, Ade or Sherilyn never called me back, that's probably not going to happen, because when Sue calls my office, somebody in my team gives Sue a specific time at which she can expect to receive a telephone call from me, or at which we can expect to be on Zoom together. Right. And so that way, everybody knows that I'm available for them at a particular time. There are not going to be any interruptions, barring emergencies, and they're available for me.
Mhm.
And that cuts down on the whole nobody got back to me.
Right. I love that. That's actually a really good procedure. We don't really do that in the office. I do call people back at certain time slots. So I allot in my schedule certain time periods that I'm calling people back, because during other times I'm either on other scheduled calls or I'm doing
Right.
work. It's not that I'm just sitting around not taking your call. There's a lot
Right.
of other files that have to be worked on. But we complement that with a client portal. So we have the client portal that we upload everything. The clients can communicate with us through the portal. If they need to see a document, I don't know how many times I have to produce the same exact document, because sometimes clients, for some reason, can never find the email or the hard copy. So they can just log in and they can find all of that. Everything that we have, they have, and I
Yeah.
find that helps make clients feel a little bit better about the communication, because they know it's there. They know what we're doing on their file. Plus, they're also seeing everything uploaded. I have a number. So I worked at a law office when I was like 18 or 19 years old as a secretary. And number one complaint for the attorney that I worked with was they weren't sending them copies of things.
Oh,
So
huge complaints.
yeah, so things would come in, and I remember I'm like, I just don't understand why it's just not automatically going out. Well, it would go to him, sit on his desk, and that was like one of the number one complaints. So, that
Right.
and not getting a phone call back are clients'
Right.
number one thing. So you want to make sure that that attorney is going to have the ability to communicate well with you.
Absolutely right. And you know what? In this day and age, Stephanie, when we're doing so much
Mhm.
via Zoom and email, well, we do the same thing as you do with the portals. We do not use email with clients. And the primary reason why we don't is because we don't want your personal information compromised in the event that there's a hack.
Mhm.
Law firms are very much susceptible, and they're actually targets for hacking and all kinds of scams. And so that we don't have any of your personal information on the interwebs,
Mhm.
we make sure that we have a portal and it's HIPAA compliant, just like your portal is. And that way, all of your stuff is there. If you say to yourself at 3 o'clock in the morning, oh, wait a minute, I need to figure out what's going on with blah, 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 and you don't have your documents, you can always just log into that portal and do that. And, that is extremely important if you're a technologically inclined person. So if you're a tech person, you really don't want to match yourself up with an attorney who doesn't even use email.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to do that. These are the questions that you need to ask that will actually make your life a lot easier going forward.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your client and attorney interaction.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on the other end of that, I've had clients that don't use email, and we have the portal. Everything is electronic now. We're trying to go paperless as much as possible, but so when we have those couple of clients, it's really difficult to communicate, and I think they probably would be better suited with an attorney who would communicate well with them, because it takes us longer to get a letter out to them rather than it coming into the office and then getting it instantaneously. So
Right.
I think that's something important. Do they suit in this day and age? Are they suited technologically with how you're used to working?
That's right. Another question that I get in legal strategy sessions a lot is, do you oh, I lost my train of thought. What was my train of thought, Stephanie?
I don't know. I was talking about how it's suited for technology, whether or not you and the client
Yeah.
are suited
Oh,
for
I know.
technology.
I know what I was going to say. What's your percentage of wins for cases?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I always tell people, I give a smart aleck answer, right? Because I'm a smart aleck. And I always tell people, well, as soon as you walk into my door, you kind of sort of lost on a divorce because you're getting divorced, right? But every case is different. Don't ask your attorney what percentage of cases they win or lose if you really want to understand what their track record is.
Mm-hmm.
You really want to talk to them more specifically about the subject matter. Okay. How likely is it for you to convince a judge that this house is my separate property, for instance? Right. It's not about how many overall losses that people have. It's about how they are going to handle your fact pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how to make the best of your case. So if you're coming into the office and don't have the law on your side and you don't have the facts on your side, and we have to be able to guide you through that to see if we can get a result that you're going to be happy with. If an attorney just says we're going to give you the sun, the stars, and the moon, and then you go to court and then you're disappointed when you're still here on earth with
Yes.
a judge making this decision, right? And by the way, judges don't always make the right decisions, but
Correct.
that's kind of a topic for another day.
That is.
But
yeah, appeals.
you definitely have to. It's not wins and losses, especially in divorce.
That's
That's
right.
kind of my point, is that we have to figure out what you need, what your facts say about your case as compared to how we interpret it with the law, and give you guidance, because we're going to lose every day if we take cases that are against the law, not against the law, but contrary to the law.
Right.
But we're also going to win every day if we are very timid and don't do anything to push boundaries.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And that's a really great point. If you go into a initial session with an attorney, looking for the attorney to tell you that everything that you're saying is right, and that attorney does exactly that, you're probably in the wrong place. You probably also are needing to have an attorney adjust your mindset a little bit, because just as in life, not everything that we all say is right, even though I am right all the time. Not everything that you think should be, can be, or should be.
Right.
So, you need to, at least in my practice, I pride myself on not telling people what they want to hear and telling them what it is that they need to hear, even if what they need to hear doesn't align with what their expectations are. And the reason why is because, again, as an attorney, it's my job to make sure that your expectations are lining up with what reality can be.
Well, yeah. Along those lines, I always like to give people worst case scenarios in a situation,
Yes. Hmm.
because I need them to know what they can expect. Here's the reality way over here. This might happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you need to know this. I don't want you to be surprised if somewhere down the line, X happens. And then you're just completely shocked that I've never told you. So I always like to make sure the worst case scenario. I like with alimony, child support, we work out ranges during the strategy session. So we know
Hmm.
that here's where you're going to fall somewhere in between. And it's always a really good feeling at the end when the client says, "Oh, you're right on target with X, Y, and Z." And I'm like, "Great, I did my job. I did my job well." It's not a pat on the back for me to say, "Oh, I predicted something." No, I feel like I did my job well and I served my client because they
Right.
went through the process, understanding the process and understanding where they were going to fall.
Right. I agree with you. A lot of what we do is about educating our
Mhm.
clients. And it's great when you realize that you did a good job educating them because they understood what to expect.
Mhm.
And then when what occurred happened within the ranges that you explained to them, they're satisfied. And I will tell you that I think that that's one of the key points to preventing yourself from having to replace your attorney in the middle of litigation and things like that. That can be very stressful when when you've been sold the sun, the moon, and the stars, and then you see, okay, there is no sun here. I don't see a star. I don't even see a sky or a cloud.
Yeah.
So there's a problem.
Yep. Yep.
You know, we're not even in the same solar system here. And then you have to go out and be searching for a lawyer
Right.
after you've already spent thousands of dollars. Look, Stephanie and I realize that once you're getting into a divorce, especially, you're investing a lot of your time, but more importantly, a lot of your hard earned money.
Mhm.
And there's absolutely no point in spending good money after bad.
Right. And it also provides, sorry, I heard a little kickback. It also, there's a problem when you have to go on to a second attorney because now you lose some level of trust in attorneys. So
Yes.
you already come into your second attorney when you're interviewing them with some level of distrust. And I don't blame the client for that at all.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. But that does a little bit of a disservice for the next attorney because the next attorney has to overcome some of that. Because it's hard. We're human beings and we're going to give you our game plan and hopefully that works for you. But if it doesn't, I think at the beginning you should be honest and truthful with yourself and what you are expecting and what you need. So that's why I think interviewing a couple of attorneys is a good idea.
I agree with you. So let me ask you a question. What do you think about reviews in
Reviews.
terms of selecting your attorneys based upon reviews?
So I don't know. I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I think, I look at reviews constantly when I'm shopping for things and I want to know that they have a lot of good reviews. I'm weary when I see a lot of only 5-star reviews because I wonder how many of those are genuine. I'm also wary when I see hundreds and hundreds of reviews for smaller firms or single attorneys. So I don't really know. I mean, look, I'm going to look at reviews. I want to know if there's anything really glaring that stands out. I'm also not going to judge anybody by their worst review either, because I know with this business, with life in general, you can really upset somebody and they're going to be vicious online because it's so much easier behind the keyboard, to attack somebody. So I'm not going to also worry about the worst review either. But I'm going to look at them, but that's not going to be, in my opinion, is not going to be the be all and end all of whether I'm going to hire that person. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with you. And I think that a lot of your information is actually going to come from the way in which the attorney who's being negatively reviewed responds.
Yes, I agree with that.
If
Mhm.
you start seeing people say, well, that's not what happened in your case, and oh, you skipped out on your bill, or, you were difficult to handle, stay away. We have a degree of ethics in our practice that precludes us from sharing really basically any facts about your case
Right,
in any kind of forum, let alone a public forum.
right.
And so if you start seeing things like that and people start, you can kind of sort of see the neck curl in the response, you might want to stay away from that. You might want to.
Right, right.
Because that's an indication that somebody's going above and beyond what the ethics of our profession even allows them to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And look, I've seen some reviews, and on that point, and now that you mention it, I have seen some responses that say, "We're sorry you were dissatisfied," or something very generic. And I actually found that classy.
Yes.
I saw where they said, "We will reach out to you privately, in order to, assist you further or correct
Right.
this issue." And I did, and I did see those, and in my mind, I did feel positively about that response.
I've seen the same thing, and I've seen some of my colleagues, write in a way that I say to myself, yeah, no, that's not going to be good, because if that's the way they're going to write to you, how are they going to be treating you one-on-one?
Right.
And even past the interviewing stage, if you don't get an ability to think that you're going to be able to, for lack of a better term, vibe with this person, as my daughter would say, that you're here with the person, you probably don't want to hire them. I listened to a financial guru who says, and some of you might know this person when I say it, who says, hire the baddest, nastiest attorney that you can, somebody that even you might not like. No, that's probably a bad idea, because if you're looking to resolve your case, even if your case is one that needs to be litigated, you still want your attorney to be somebody that is approachable and open to resolving if the resolution is on a level that's going to benefit you. When you hire the nastiest, most crotchety attorney, and you don't even like them, how are you going to work together to resolve anything or even to litigate your case?
And the number one thing, in my opinion, that is important for an attorney-client relationship is being candid with your attorney. If you
Absolutely.
don't like your attorney, how are you going to be candid with that person? And frankly, if that attorney is the meanest, crotchetiest attorney, when you're having a conversation, are they really going to be listening to you? Because they're going to be thinking about their own agenda, in my opinion. You want to make sure there's an open line of communication. Are you comfortable telling, especially in divorce, some of the most intimate aspects of your life to this person? Because as an attorney, we cannot represent you to the fullest if we don't know all of the details.
Say it again.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right.
we're there to sort out what's relevant and not relevant. You should not edit yourself to tell us what you think is relevant because you want us to shape the case the way you want it, because the other side is going to come at you and tell you exactly what you didn't want us to know. So
that's right. And if they catch us off guard,
yep,
and they catch us ill prepared for the nonsense that they're going to throw, then that is a detriment to your case.
Yep.
That's absolutely true. That is a huge detriment to your case. And Stephanie and I have both been there when, with the big things and the small things, when you're in court and you're arguing and all of a sudden you get hit with this, with this Molotov cocktail of what? I had no, and then you look at your client, how come you never told me that? We want to hear everything. There is almost nothing that we haven't heard. We don't even really get shocked anymore. We've been doing this for so long, right?
Right, exactly. I have to tell you, so the biggest issue to me, not the biggest issue, we're talking about my biggest issue. My number one is the client communication and being candid. I was representing a client on a domestic violence matter. The client did not disclose all of the facts to me. And I was prosecuting a restraining order. And during the process, she tells me something about an assault, in a sexual assault. And it was nowhere in any of our papers.
Oh.
We'd never raised the issue before. We were sitting there and she's telling me this and she's insisting that I bring this up. And believe me, it was a very relevant and important fact.
Absolutely.
But
I'm
the
sure.
fact that we're bringing it up in response to something that the defendant is saying now makes her look less credible, even though she was, I have no doubt in my mind she was being honest. She just was not comfortable telling me this. And ever since then, I've made it even more of a point when there's things of a sensitive nature to say, if there's something sensitive, you still need to tell me. I don't have to use it, but I need to know it in advance.
Absolutely.
because that was, I mean, that really hurt her case, and she did not get her restraining order because
Oh my goodness.
yep, because the judge would not consider that as a prior history, and it was basically went to her credibility.
Yeah, that's difficult. And, people, as we're doing, especially with DV cases, really have to understand that, you get a chance to amend your petition, and that's it. You can't be amending it and amending it. And your adversary has a constitutional right to know what you're going to accuse that person of. And if you don't put that forth in your documents, you're going to be precluded from doing that. So, oh my goodness, that's terrible.
Yeah, I
And
felt
that's a
really,
situation of life and death sometimes.
yeah, yeah, I felt really bad for her. And then I also was like, okay, this is a learning experience for me because I need to ask that extra question. Um, and sometimes that's what needs to happen. But for sure, clients really need to feel that they're confident. And by the way, if she wasn't confident and comfortable telling me all these things, maybe she should have hired somebody else. I'm okay with that.
Correct.
I'm not,
Correct.
everybody's sauce because I'm not, I'm not.
Correct.
But
Yeah,
whoever I have, I want to make sure they're comfortable.
absolutely. And I always tell people, um, you know, if you don't feel comfortable enough, then perhaps I'm not the right lawyer for you. And again, everybody is not like, it's like, people think that ketchup, everybody likes ketchup. Everybody doesn't like ketchup. Some people like mayonnaise with their French fries, and if that's the case, you need to go get mayonnaise. Don't sit there with the bottle of ketchup when
Yeah.
it's not going to work for you.
It's never going to be mayonnaise.
It's never going to be mayonnaise, so and just because your mom or dad referred you, or your sister from from college, your sorority sister referred and they had a great experience with this attorney, doesn't mean that attorney is the right fit for you. So another thing about this that you probably get too, and I have come across, is that whole conflicting out. We're going to interview as many attorneys as we can to conflict people out.
Yep. So this is, I joke with, my husband and I've joked with each other. He has the curse of being married to a divorce lawyer. So we get like, so I'm
Yeah, mine too.
like, I'm meeting with all of these lawyers, so you're not getting any of them. And of course, he named two that I don't particularly care for. And I was like, all right, you got me. That you'll go.
Forget it. We ain't never getting divorced. Nope, not if you use them.
I mean, how do you handle that though? All joking aside.
So here's the thing. People are funny. They always want to conflict out the best divorce lawyer, right? Somebody that they think is really great. They think you're good, but they think this person might be great, and they want to conflict them out. And my thing is, okay, if you want to if you want to interview people, that's fine, but let's not go conflicting out really good talent that may be people who are able to resolve your case and work well with others, because those are the people that you want to have on the other side. You want the really competent attorney who is not going to be what we call churning your spouse's file and just sending out motions and all kinds of documents that don't need to be sent out, like the story that Stephanie was talking about earlier. You don't want to conflict out somebody who can be reasonable. And if you just start seeing every divorce lawyer under the sun, that's going to be a problem, because you're not going to leave anybody for your client, for your spouse to interview. Have you seen Marriage Story?
Yes. Yes.
Because that happened in Marriage Story.
It did. And she ended up with, I forget, or he ended up with somebody who doesn't even do divorce work. I forget.
Yeah, it was shady. Yeah. Like they met like in a parking lot office or something. Okay, no offense to anybody who has an office in an industrial area. Okay, we're not saying anything about you, but it was just shady the way that whole thing
was portrayed in the movie. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm against that. I tell people to, there's some lawyers who I might say you don't want to have a case against that person, because that person is the knockdown, drag out, fight, not just give you a black eye, but really try to do you in type of attorney. And
Yeah.
you probably don't want your spouse to have that
Right.
person.
But you also, on the other side, you don't want, and I think this is extremely important. This is extremely important in family law. I think it also applies to other areas of law. You don't want somebody who's popping in that doesn't do that type of work on a regular basis.
Truth.
There's some areas that you can kind of jump in and jump out of. Family law, in my opinion, is not one of those. You want
Not one of them.
somebody who practices family law. They've done it for many years. I mean, everybody has a start, but that's their primary focus, because I have to tell you, the cases that I've had with attorneys that do not understand family law and the intricacies of it, I've had to educate them somewhat. And unfortunately, it seems like I'm being like a jerk to them because I'm saying this is how it is, but this is how it is.
Right.
This is how equitable distribution works. They're not getting this or they're getting this. And we end up costing more money because we have to go through the process
Absolutely.
of motions and additional litigation that we wouldn't have to if you hired an attorney that understands family law primarily.
Absolutely. And you find that especially in economic downturns, you start seeing people who are, and again, no offense to criminal people, you start seeing criminal attorneys randomly taking matrimonial cases, or you see, people who do personal injury or real estate litigation in mat court, and you're wondering, like, what are y'all lost or something? What are you doing here? Because they don't understand the intricacies, and a lot of even lawyers think that matrimonial law is, okay, so we'll just do split custody every other weekend, split the house in the middle, and that's it. And it's not that simple. Sometimes it is that simple, but a lot of the times it's not that simple, and you do yourself a disservice. And if your spouse hires that person, your spouse does themselves a disservice if they're hiring somebody who doesn't focus on the area of matrimonial law. And I would say that the same thing goes with estate planning. The same thing goes with real estate. The same thing goes with certainly criminal. You don't want to hire me for a criminal law case because you're going to jail. You're going to prison. Forget jail. You're going to prison. You wish you would have been in jail.
With bankruptcy, I've seen a lot of attorneys say right now, oh, bankruptcy is going to be on the rise, so I'm going to start doing some bankruptcy work. I'm never going to do bankruptcy work. I don't understand it unless I was literally going to change my entire practice area.
Right.
And I'm not doing criminal. I might represent a friend in a municipal court matter because it's a parking traffic ticket, something like that.
Sure.
But
sure, we can do that. Yeah.
I'm not.
So speaking about bankruptcy,
yes,
that was a great segue. Oh my gosh.
Why?
Next week's show, we're going to be talking to my girl, Kara Kingston. And I talked about her on a live that I did on my Facebook page for my business. Kara is going to be giving us the lowdown on several issues in bankruptcy and how they intersect with matrimonial law. And I am so excited, Stephanie.
Yeah, she seems very nice. I looked at her page. I told you I was going to stalk her a little bit afterwards. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her, but I think she's going to be amazing. She's going to be.
Well, if she's my person, she's good.
I know. It's true. It's so true. Everybody you've connected with me with so far, I loved.
Yeah, listen, we fly with eagles now. Steph, this has been such an awesome show. What kind of last thoughts do you want to give to people?
So before I give any last thoughts, I want to say, because we haven't said it and we need to get better about saying it, is if any of this information can have value to someone please share it with them. I know, especially divorce, when we go through some of the other episodes, it's very sensitive. So if you do know someone, you can share it privately, and they can ask us private questions through the, Messenger, and we can address them live. Not necessarily giving direct answers, but maybe more general information, because we're not going to be giving legal advice. But definitely, please like and share the video. We're just starting out. Today was episode 1, and we're really excited about it.
We sure are. Like and share. And remember, as Stephanie said, this is for informational purposes only. We are not your attorneys, not yet. If you want us to be your attorneys, you can certainly hit us up.
Absolutely. Because as much as we love this, we are trying to give you information, but hey, we can use a client or two out of it.
That's right. That's right. So
And
it's always a pleasure hanging out with you.
you as well. Until next Thursday.
Next Thursday, 6 p.m. Check us out, like us, and share. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining Undoing I Do with Stephanie and a Day.